Hello, welcome back to Out on That Line podcast. I am Jeff with my co-host Alex as always. Alex, how you doing this week?
Then justice will be served and the battle will rage. This big dog will fight when you rattle his cage, and you'll be sorry that you messed with the US of A. Cause we'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam. It's the 250th birthday of America coming up, gang. And Jeff and I could not be more ambivalent about it. I don't want to speak for Jeff. I, for one, could not be more ambivalent about it. They've banned fireworks at the lake. Everything is hell. I'm dead inside. How are you doing, Jeff?
Wait. They banned. Are you talking about at Shadow Lake? They've banned the fireworks there
at the illustrious Shadow Lake. Yes, the Cliff's Notes version is they knew they could see coming that this was going to be the year that everybody was going to like shoot their wad, and they got out ahead of it, and they were like, it's bad for the lake. Animals get scared. And some of us have PTSD. And I'm like, I did not realize that Shadow Lake was populated entirely by non-vets.
Yeah.
It's just like, you don't get to claim PTSD just to claim PTSD to get your way. But it's, all a bunch of boomers, and they don't like that we're lighting off fireworks. And so they can't ban us. You have to have a permit. And if you have a permit, they can't do anything. But we were asked by my gentleman father to forego them this year to be politically correct. And I said, politically correct? I thought you were a Republican. I thought we were making comedy legal again. What's going on?
Yeah.
What about my right to blow my fingers off, you fuck?
I think really what it comes down to is all those people got sick of being shown up by our performance there.
I think so. I think the people in the surrounding areas, they got, they had pretty significant inferiority complex over it.
Yeah, in the annual Battle of Shadow Lake, our performance was consistent. It was rousing, and I think they all felt like they paled in comparison. And so their only way to win is to take the game away.
Now, does it have anything to do with the fact that last year, someone who will not be named, Mitch, propped the fireworks up on a cornhole board, which you are not supposed to do, and the force launched the whole thing into the lake and started shooting fireworks out of the water at us? So you want to talk about who should have PTSD? That's the closest I'll ever get to combat, was running across my lawn while fucking fireworks are going off.
The closest you've been to combat yet,
exactly.
Yeah, they'd raise the draft age, so just careful when you say that.
Absolutely. I look forward to being on the front lines in Cuba.
Yeah. Well, this week we are going to do a review of the new Willow Avalon album, Pink Pocket Pistol. Say that 10 times fast, folks. I bet you can't. And I bet you're going to end up saying a word that you may not want to say in mixed company, if you know what I'm saying. But it's a country artist that you suggested. I had zero familiarity with, but really it felt like a very like traditional form of country. Felt like something if I were to go to a local place here in Austin, Texas called Samstown Point, it's a real honky tonk kind of joint. It felt like something that would fit in very well there. I don't know if she's from Texas, but it felt like a very Texas brand of country.
So I also knew nothing about Willow Avalon. She's technically from Georgia, but there is like the Texas sound smeared all over this, like the very classic country. Like one of the biggest sounds that you hear on this is that whiny steel guitar, and then the kind of like eclectic fiddle sound. So she's definitely playing around in a lot of subgenre in this. So I got the Texas thing at first too. But yeah, Carlton, Georgia. Her father is a professional guitarist and singer-songwriter named Jim White.
Okay.
Not really familiar with his work, but I got to be honest with you. I saw that. At first, I was very tempted to be like, oh, God, Nepo Baby release. This was after we decided to do this album, because this website that I was perusing, that I go to every now and then, mixed results from it, but sometimes you find a gem. Saving Country Music, a very dramatic name.
Oh, God.
But are you familiar?
I'm familiar.
Okay. Yeah. Every now and then I'm like, what's going on Saving Country Music? And whoever the writer was very enthused about this release. And then we decided to do it. And I looked it up and I was like, oh God, Nepo Baby, Gracie Abrams Country. I don't want to do this. And then I listened to the album, and I would say the first time through, it wasn't like revelatory. It didn't do too much for me, but through subsequent listens, it really started to grow on me, and I started to appreciate the nuance a lot more. So I'd be curious what you thought when all was said and done with this.
So I felt like my first blush, like with this album, felt like the songwriting of like the Dixie Chicks with the very like traditional Texas country sound that I'm kind of used to hearing after living down here. And maybe she wasn't going for specifically Texas country. Maybe that just happened to be where it landed. But there was some very clever lyrical play in this album. I think there was an emphasis on, I don't want to say it was like Riot Girls kind of like feminine, empowerment, that kind of thing. I think it was just a very like sure of herself and who she is, both as a woman and as a songwriter. I felt like there was some really good storytelling in this album, which you kind of have to have if you're going to be in a traditional country space. I think in comparison to, and I couldn't help but compare this to an artist that is having huge success right now, Ella Langley, that I just really, for some reason, I just get the sense like if you're going to call out like a Nepo baby thing, I don't think Ella Langley is necessarily Nepo baby, but she gives me the sense that it's very much like an industry plant kind of situation, where it feels like this is through social media algorithms, things like that, just getting forced on me. And maybe it's the audience that she's cultivating. It tends to be very much that like Morgan Wallen, like country bro kind of audience that I think is it that I associate now with Ella Langley. Whereas this Willow Avalon, I think, is going to get a lot more of the people like us that are more of like a Sturgill fan, or a Tyler Childers fan, or like I felt like I heard a lot of Charlie Crockett and its kind of similarities to its songwriting and storytelling in this album. I like that she really leaned in on that like heavy Southern accent. I think that really adds to that authenticity that we always talk about with artists. That's like really, really important, especially in country music. And really any storytelling kind of style of music. That authenticity is something you have to have. Like that's got to be the foundation of what you're working with. I like all the accents. I like that there was obvious like adherence to those traditional country values with some like kind of winks and nods to expanding that a little bit. So overall, I was pretty positive on this.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I think her voice is very unique. We're Margot Price fans. I might lean a little more enthusiastic than you. I don't want to, go telling tales out of school. But Margot Price is another person who's really put her stamp on a genre, on a sound, kind of in that Willie Nelson mold, the outlaw, and has that very, very unique sound. This is something kind of sort of in that vein, but I think way more theatrical.
Mm-hmm.
The unique voice, just it's hard to approximate, but like uneasy on the eyes, that's like,
Yes.
It's this strange kind of like granny lilt to it that's very unique. And I think what it does is it injects a ton of personality that, combined with the storytelling, sells the whole thing. There are great, like, there's not a ton of information on this out there, but what I did find is that she kind of considers this like an almost like country gothic aesthetic,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a lot of like stories that are based on like, killing your husband,
Yeah, that's where I got the
speaking.
Dixie Chicks. Like all I could think about, what was the name of the song?
Hypothetically speaking.
All I could think about was Goodbye Earl.
Yeah, Earl, and then in that song it's Carl.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got a song like that. You got the duet with Jason Isbell, Cardinal Sin, which I'm sure we'll talk about.
Mm-hmm.
There are some really tender personal moments, and then there are just some great like vignettes, like something like Easy on the Eyes for me has a hook. There are a lot of great hooks on this album. This has a hook, and I think the difference between this and something like Choosing Texas has been like meme to death. And it's a hook, but it's gonna get driven into the ground. I think something like Easy on the Eyes, because it's flying under the radar, is gonna have more staying power. And I also think there's more thoughtful lyricism to it. I'm not like anti Ella Langley by any stretch. The industry plant thing resonates with me. I kind of get that same sense.
Mhm.
But with Willow Avalon, it's that below the neck authenticity, these flashes of very, very personal, and then sort of that distance from the storytelling of a vignette, something like hypothetically speaking, obviously like based in a fictional scenario with her friend. She tells a lot of varied stories and dabbles in different subgenres. You can get honky tonk, you can get blues, you can get something more folky, you can get something more Nashville sound, you can get something more outlaw. There's a lot. It's something that I would say pull back on the pop. It's similar to like I'm not putting it on the same level as Golden Hour per se, but the eclecticism of a Golden Hour, that same kind of thing rings true here.
Yeah, and I definitely heard some, obviously Casey Musgraves has gone kind of all over the map with genre and experimentation and stuff like that with pop music, country, a little bit of disco in there sometimes too. It's like, I think with Willow Avalon, like she colors outside the lines of country a little bit, but I think she stays in that box a lot more. But I think that's where, lyrically, and I'm glad you pointed out Easy on the Eyes, because there's a pre-chorus section of that, but drink all the lies as they pour from his mouth, even though I know it's bound to go south. So the line, but drink all the lies as they pour from his mouth. Obviously, there's such an emphasis with country artists, like how much can they mention the word whiskey? How much, like there's always some metaphors that have to do with drinking. Like Eric Church has Mixed Drinks About Feelings that he did with Susan Tedeschi. Like you find that all over the place, like Drink in My Hand that he does too. Like you find that all over the place of people being clever about drinking, right? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. There's always these like ways that they try to do that, but the drink all the lies as they pour from his mouth. It's funny because there is a cleverness to it, but there's such an earnestness to it. Like the song is all about how she can't say no to this guy, no matter what, that she's his, but he'll never be hers. It's like, I feel like you get that sense and that feeling. Sorry, the dogs are saying hi to somebody. I wonder if wife of the pod got home. I appreciate, and it's kind of all over the place with this album, is she's kind of taking those classic country conventions and just twisted them a little bit. I wouldn't say she's like turning them completely on their head or anything like that, but she's just taking a little bit different look at it. Maybe that more of that gothic style. Maybe it's a little bit darker look at it, because I feel like there is a little bit of a darkness to a lot of these songs on this album as well.
Yeah, and I think like even in like one of the most readily available analogs that I can think of is Jolene, where there's some like vocal similarity to Dolly, and I don't think it's forced, it's not manufactured, but it is there in moments, and it presents itself pretty obviously. So even when it does get like dark, I think like in terms of like gothic, I look at like the scope and scale of the storytelling, even when it's a story as intimate as, he walked in the room with his 10-gallon hat and his God-given baby blues, a 6'2" tornado, and I'm in his path. Tell me what's a girl to do. Very simple, very small scale, but she manages to make a meal out of that with simplicity. And it's the like very simple juxtaposition of stuff. He's easy on the eyes, but heavy on my heart. If breaking my heart was like breaking the law, that man would be doing hard time. 1 degree off, and that becomes corny and kind of sloppy and uninspired. But put together with this kind of like boppy, it's one of the more like straight, I would say like Texas country, like hard country grooves on it. Easy on the and you get your steel guitar. So for something that feels very buoyant, it does have this kind of undercurrent of like, oh my God, I'm so into this guy. He has a spell on me. I'm so screwed. And yet at the same time, I'm not sure there's anywhere I'd rather be. So there's a great sense of humor. There's a lot of tongue in cheek on this. Even though you can get a song like that, which is ostensibly like, oh, I'm powerless for this guy, you can then get a song like Willie Won't, which is basically like, warning about all these different types of men. It's this blanket warning. I love that song. The chorus, if his name is Will, baby, then he won't. If his name is Rich, baby, then he's broke. If his name is Johnny, he's as good as gone, gone, gone. So I'll light another smoke because if his name is Will, he won't. Like that's very cynical and sarcastic as opposed to the helplessness of Easy on the Eyes. So inhabiting these different perspectives and pairing them really well with the subgenre, I think is one of the stronger features of this album.
And I like that in Willie Won't. I like that she also uses like modern language, like what you'd consider like modern memeable language, right? Now I'm sitting across this table waiting for the next foul thing to come out of your mouth besides your stank ass breath. So I think there's a, you listen to like Charlie Crockett, right? I don't think you'd ever hear him say a line like foul thing to come out of your mouth besides your stank ass breath. Like I just don't see him ever writing a line like that. I think he is very traditional in how he structures songs. I think he's a wonderful storyteller, but I think he sticks in that very traditional, like kind of element of country music. I think what I like about what Willow Avalon is doing is taking those classic country tropes and those classic things, and again, just like twisting them a little bit. I think not so much that you can say that she's like trying to completely subvert a genre or anything like that, or have any risk of it becoming corny. I think there is a cleverness in these lyrics while not making them complicated whatsoever.
So we had a little technical difficulty, got a little sidetracked. So I think we're gonna move into the end of this. But before we do, I just wanted to open the floor to any talk of songs that stood out to you. I mean, we've talked about stuff like Easy on the Eyes and Really Won't. And the thing is, it's an album with a lot of standouts. There's a lot of varied material, great hooks. Pink Pocket Pistol is as memorable as Easy on the Eyes, as Hickest Woman. Willie Won't, hypothetically speaking, is a standout. Cardinal Sin, I would, before we kind of give our scores and move on, be curious what you thought of that one.
I thought that was excellent. So I think there was a really good mix on this album of those like kind of tongue in cheek, like jokey songs. Like Hell in a Handbag was great. Hypothetically Speaking was great. Willie Won't was great. So you had those like clever, country plays on words and things like that. You had a lot of that. That's where I kind of compared it to like Dixie Chicks. You had a lot of fun songs like that, but then you had some just really honest to God, like great songwriting, like moments on this album. Cardinal Sin is one of them. I really enjoyed Georgia Mile, the song that wraps up the album. I think there are some really you have your funny moments, you have your like tongue in cheek, clever moments, but then you just have some just generally beautiful moments on this album. Cardinal Sin being one of them. I mean, we love Jason Isbell anyway. I think he's one of the finest songwriters of this generation. I don't know how much influence he had on the overall songwriting or direction of the song, or if he was just kind of on it. But it really, as a duet, worked really well. And just as an experiment with songwriting, it worked really well. I think has a lot of very like classic country songwriting elements to it. Baby, I've committed a cardinal sin. I fell in love with him while I was sworn to be yours. It's like, it's like Lips of an Angel, but better. I think it's a really, really strong effort on her part. And to have somebody of Jason Isbell's like standard and standing on this album, I think also speaks to like how she's probably looked at within this industry too.
I think she should put that quote on the album cover. It's like Lips of an Angel, but better.
Yeah.
I think what that piece in particular, what Cardinal Sin represents to me, holding her own with someone who's got a very distinctive voice, and a guy that we love, who I guess you could call him a luminary of the genre, especially insofar as like the kind of country we're into. So holding her own with his presence, and then also the songwriting on it is really, really strong, and it shows that she can be serious, she can be tender. Her lyricism and her musicality lends itself as much to kind of deep, dark subject matter like this as much as it does something like, Hypothetically Speaking or Pink Pocket Pistol. So I think overall, from this effort, I see a lot of demonstrated versatility. I see great instincts, especially for like exploring these subgenres. Um, as far as criticism, I think there were a couple songs that didn't really land with me, like "Work to Do," "Raining Inside." There are moments where, for a short album, it buckles a little bit. Didn't feel overly long, but there were these moments where I was aware of the quality that had come before and that I wasn't getting it in this moment, but it always then like picked back up. And so like the briefest of pits, um, not radically reinventing the genre, not anytime soon going to supplant any of my favorite country artists. I would say as like a first introduction, I really enjoyed this and color me intrigued to see what comes next. I think a fair grade on this one, 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm right at 7 out of 10 on this one. And I think it's just simply because of those like few songs, maybe a handful that really didn't get up to the standard of the other ones. And I think because those other ones were at such a high standard, it just makes those other ones a little bit more glaring, that they didn't quite meet it. So, I think there is a lot here to love. I think if you're already a country music fan, you're going to probably find a lot to enjoy about this. If you're specifically like a Texas country music fan, or you like the more kind of honky tonk side of the genre, you're going to love this album. I think to have a person like Jason Isbell put his stamp of approval and appear on this album, because he does duets, but I don't know how many other people's albums he's really ever on. So I think having that feather in her hat is a big deal. And I really am looking forward a lot to whatever she does next. I think she's pretty fantastic, very unique voice, her own kind of sound within a genre that's kind of seen a million faces already.
This could have easily devolved into parody of something like Dolly Parton. And it just didn't. It's not gimmickry. It's not mimicry. It's the best possible outcome you can hope for, which is learning lessons, for better or worse, what you want to do and maybe what you're not as interested in, to find your own voice and find your own style. That's kind of what makes it stand out to me from all of these imitators. There are a lot of Dolly imitators, like down to the album artwork. And this did not fall into that trap for me.
Yeah, this is a really good experience, a really good first introduction to Willow Avalon. I love it when we get a brand new artist that neither of us has ever experienced, and to have them come through like this. So I think two very fair scores. But folks, tell us in the comments what you thought. The comments have been very active. We get critical of some albums sometimes, and then some folks get critical of us in those comments. So Alex, where can they find that comment section if they do want to do that?
Listen, y'all. Considering the times, right? And I don't care if you're one of our Australian listeners, and I'm convinced that they don't listen to these episodes, and that's okay. Wherever you are in the world, World Cup's going on right now. There's this international spirit. It's a crazy time. We've got all these nations coming together in America, in North America, for the World Cup. We've got Europeans and South Americans seeing just what America's got under the hood when it comes to bottomless chips and salsa and free refills. There's a lot of goodwill in a time where we really, really needed it. And on top of that, America's 250th birthday. I mean, everything's coming up the US of A right now. So with that said, it is your patriotic duty, and I don't care if you're Canadian, Australian, or from Trinidad and Tobago, it is your duty to go to youtube.com/C/out on that line and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and make sure you click the bell so you get notifications when we drop a hot load of freedom in your lap. You hit the thumbs up to like the video. You can hype the video. You can share it with a friend. And like Jeff said, these comments are popping off. We're really enjoying it, for better or worse, right? Like, people antagonize us or people agree with us. And it's just as fun either way. It's as great making new friends as it is new mortal enemies, because it keeps life interesting. So during this very blessed celebratory season, we invite you to stand up and pledge your allegiance to the cause that is youtube.com/C/out on that line. Do it today.
Do what the man says for America, folks. Till next time.
Yeah.